You're listening to Binjang 91.5, and it's time for Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson, with Tony Graham. And g'day, Matthew.
Hey, good morning, Tony. Great to chat to you again.
Always, Matthew. Now, we'll start off with gaming. So we've got PlayStation 5. The Sony PS5 event has given the first look at games and their specs and their prices.
Yeah.
So walk us through that.
I can only give you a little bit of an idea on some of it because they didn't release everything, but obviously, as they often do with technology events, they release a few things to tease the public, get the public talking about it, exactly as we're doing now. So we've fallen into their trap, Tony. But the PlayStation 5 is a pretty exciting announcement. It won't be out to the end of the year, but in terms of gaming consoles, not only have gaming consoles been growing over the years, but COVID-19 has really pushed gaming consoles to the forefront because people have spent so much time at home. They haven't been able to go to the pub, haven't been able to go to dinner. So they've sat at home in a lot of cases and they've gamed. So it really has started people thinking more and more about gaming. Obviously, the PlayStation 5 was already in development, but it's certainly gained a bit more excitement around some of the announcements. And as with all new gaming consoles, they've increased the power, the resolution has been increased, the frame rate's been increased, the storage capacity has been increased. But most importantly, I think, is really about the games that are available. And that's where I think you're seeing some exciting development here, because obviously there's no good to have the best console in the world without a game to play on it. And Grand Theft Auto is one of the first ones that's been announced to be developed specifically for the PlayStation 5. Now, Grand Theft Auto is talked about as being the most financially successful piece of media of all time. It sold 120 million copies since it launched back in 2013, and most people, gaming or otherwise, have heard of Grand Theft Auto. So that's being re-released or a new version for the PlayStation 5. You've also got Ratchet and Clank, and I don't mind Ratchet and Clank myself. My son plays a bit of Ratchet and Clank, and so I do play with him from time to time. And it's pretty mindless sort of gameplay, but it's actually quite quirky and quite clever in terms of its gameplay. So they'll have a new version of Ratchet and Clank out for the PlayStation 5. Gran Turismo will be out for a new version. They'll have their 7th version of the Gran Turismo franchise, if you like. So there's a whole range of different games coming out. The price is the thing that amazes me. Now, this is only rumoured price. It's been based on a leaked Amazon UK price and then converted to Australian dollars. But you're talking about over $1,000. In fact, maybe up as high as $1,100 for the console. So it's big business gaming console.
Yes, well, I can tell from your enthusiasm, Matthew, that you're right into this stuff. And during the coronavirus, looks like you were one of those people that was using these games a lot.
I was actually playing some old classics. I actually got my son to drag out a few old classic games and play some old classics there. It's one of those things. Crash Bandicoot I actually played a bit of during the lockdown, and Crash Bandicoot again is a very old game, but it's got some pretty interesting little gameplay with it. So I don't mind that. Car racing games are a bit of a favourite of mine as well, although now it's you almost need the full setup to be able to get the full experience for a car racing game. No longer is it just a little joystick. You need the complete setup. So, look, I don't mind a few little games, but it can take up so much of your time.
Yes, I think I might have opened up a can of worms with that last question. This is an interesting marketing ploy, I think. Now, KFC were rumoured to have released a game console to compete with Sony's PS5, but that's not really so, is it?
It isn't so. When the announcement of the PlayStation 5 went out, then KFC announced that they would be having their own gaming console to compete directly with Sony and Microsoft with their Xbox. So they wanted to come out there with their own, and so they had their own console, and they were showing it off on social media. And again, it was one of those ways to get it out there without really spending a lot of money on a big launch. But I think the thing that gave it away in the end, they claimed all sorts of things. They had cross-platform compatibility, but then it had its own built-in red glowing barbecue grill called the Chicken Chamber, and that was for when gamers had enough time playing and they had the urge to cook up some chicken. So when you read all the specs about it, it sounded like a great gaming console. It sounded better than a PlayStation 5, better than a Microsoft Xbox. but the chicken grill or the chicken chamber was what gave it away as being a bit of a joke. And so they've actually put an announcement for the date on the launch of this particular console, but I think we'll see a few more little things pop up during the next few months leading up to that announcement date or launch date, which then obviously won't actually happen in terms of the launch of it. So anyway, bit of fun by KFC, but don't expect to find that gaming console on the shelves of any shops anytime soon.
You're a spoiler, Matthew.
Sorry. I like the idea. So you don't even leave your lounge room. You keep playing games. You're hungry, you just sit there and cook it up in your gaming console and keep playing. Not sure about going to the toilet. That's another issue.
Well, we'll leave that alone, I think. The Data 61, that's the CSIRO's development, is out there with autonomous bots. They've got this in development to clear landmines. Well, that's a big step forward, I guess, isn't it?
It's a huge step forward. And to be honest, Tony, I didn't know that landmines are still an issue around the world. I thought we pretty much would have cleared all the landmines that we had around the world. But there are 100 people killed each year in demining landmines around the world. So not just people that are killed randomly stepping onto an area that's got landmines, but people trying to remove landmines. So that's 100 deaths a year that I think would be preventable. And this particular bot is actually, that's their idea, is to stop all those people being killed by having a bot go through and clear it up. Now, you can imagine the expense in a robot. You don't want to just send these out onto the mining fields and actually have them blowing up and costing millions of dollars each time. That's still better than losing lives, of course. But I think the idea here is that with some really clever robotics, you're actually going to be able to clear mines without losing people, without losing some of the robots. So the first thing they do is they map out the whole field. They map that out to go and do an initial scan of that field to get some ideas about what might be there. And then they use basically, if you like, the old metal detectors, a little bit more sophisticated than that, but they go through with the metal detectors to try and find the actual mines that are out there. Essentially, they go through 5 different phases to basically get down to the point where they've specifically identified where those mines are. And then the tricky part, of course, I imagine, what do you do then? You've actually found the mines. I don't want to be the one that's given the job of digging up those mines because obviously that's when they're triggered. But they've got quite a clever process there where the robots can actually basically take those mines and make them useless in terms of being able to blow up or do anything via a process where they actually inject some materials into the mine to make them useless and then be able to dig up and take it away. So basically quite a clever process and hopefully save lives and get to the point where we can reuse some of these fields that used to be filled with landmines. Yeah,
they're still working on removing landmines in a big way in Vietnam still, and there's quite a few Australian vets who volunteer their time to do that.
Yeah, quite incredible. So we just imagine, we must have planted, and I don't know a number for this, Tony, but we must have planted, tens of thousands of mines in various minefields around the world to still be clearing them out now. One of the stats that Data 61 put forward was that there have been 122,000 landmine casualties since tracking began in 1999. So that's not wartime casualties, that's after wartime. So that is pretty scary.
Yeah. And you'll be listening to Tech Talk with Matthew Dickinson on Binjang 91.5. Stay tuned this afternoon at 3:40 p.m. and the next edition will be on. And it's back to the great music and community information right here.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Matthew.